Hello guys, Nightlock here. We're going to be having a bit of a different kind of video today. Obviously, as you can see, no sim racing footage going in the background right now. This is kind of more just a discussion, a bit of a rant on my part, trying to get a few things off my mind, make a few points in defense for something that I feel like really needs a defense and really needs more people making a case for it. And that would be community teams. This is going to be completely unscripted. I don't even have bullet points, any talking points down. So we're just kind of going to go with it. But with that, let's get into the video. Now, as I said, I think that people really do need to start making a case for community teams. Obviously, we have seen, especially with the past year, thanks to a certain little cough, the racing esports scene has started to explode tremendously and has started gaining a lot more attention because it was the only alternative available to the real world racing that everyone loves to watch. However, that has helped to grow a few other problems. Now, I say problems, but they're things that I'd be lying if I tried to say I wasn't at least somewhat excited about. And that would be real world professional racing teams and organizations stepping into our small niche little world of sim racing and starting to call it their home as well. Now, pro teams coming in and these massive organizations are awesome to see coming in because that opens a lot of opportunities for the drivers within the sim community to be able to step up and take it to the next level. I mean, let's be honest. If you are a sim racer and you take it competitively, it doesn't matter what medium you're on. If you're on Gran Turismo, if you're on Forza, R Factor 2, Assetto Corsa Competizione, iRacing, it doesn't matter. If you have Ferrari, Aston Martin, Alfa Romeo, Red Bull, Lamborghini, any name like that coming up and giving you an offer to join a team, you'll be very hard pressed to say no. And I'll put my hands up and say I'm absolutely part of this group. If that offer was made to me, I would say yes. Because it's a very logical step forward for anyone that is wanting to get deeper within the community and look at ways to grow within this little niche that we have. Now, with that being said, that leaves a lot of the community teams in a very tough spot. As we are seeing more and more of these large professional teams and large corporations coming into the sim racing community, we are very quickly seeing them grab up all of the pro drivers and grab up positions in series that may be limited. Series that these community teams really would be able to shine in. Now, it's tough for me to speak on a lot of the mediums in a really in-depth or personal level, as I haven't done a lot of high-level competitive racing on anything apart from the Forza community. I've done private leagues within Project Cars 2 as well, but nothing quite to the level as what you see that I attempted to do within the Forza community, and that was just down to me, the timing, and personally how comfortable I was with my skill level on Project Cars 2 at the time. I'm currently working on getting on iRacing, and one of my goals in there is to try and make it to the top classes within the road category. So I will be looking at trying to get into more of the professional level categories and leagues that are being hosted there. But with that being said, getting back to the main point, these professional teams coming in are making it a lot harder for these smaller community teams to really try and get into some of these series. Speaking on Forza, for example, you have Forza RC, which is the single biggest series that runs on Forza, far bigger than any of the private community or association leagues that you see running on the platform, with major cash prize pools for those who win it. The first season of Forza RC, it was completely flooded with community teams, and you saw a lot of good action and a lot of good battling with these names that, if you were part of the Forza community, were very recognizable for you. They were people that you would see their names, you knew exactly who they were, where they came from. However, following on with subsequent seasons of Forza RC, it started to almost morph. All of a sudden, it became a lot more locked down, a lot more restricted. You weren't even able to try and qualify to make it into the Forza RC, and there were designated spots handed out to specific teams. And what you wound up seeing was a lot of shady things that started going on because of that. First off, you'd see things such as individuals and organizations coming forward to these teams and to these drivers, trying to get them to sign on, only to then back out of their deal, try to rip them off, scam them at the very end once everything was said and done. And if you weren't one of the top guys in a team lucky enough to be deemed worthy of joining, then you were out of luck. You weren't even given a chance. It's not like it was in past seasons where you could go through the qualifiers and fight for your chance to have a position up there in the top, which was really disappointing to me. But you then saw all these major teams that had just started coming into the community. You had teams such as Red Bull Racing, Alfa Romeo, Williams, that were just fresh, stepping into the community, just getting started. All these huge real-world teams that had absolutely zero pedigree and zero time within the Forza community, that were just being handed these spots for free, because how do you say no to Red Bull, to Williams, Alfa Romeo? And as we've been going on, we've been seeing more and more professional teams and large organizations entering into racing esports and getting into the racing community, and this is becoming a bigger and bigger issue, where these large names are given right of way and just getting passed on through because they're big names, nothing else. No pedigree, no time put in, nothing proven that they should be there by the standards of the community that they're trying to integrate themselves into. Everyone just looks at him, sees a name, and goes, oh yeah, come on through. Let's do this. You got this. And that honestly isn't right, because you have a lot of these community teams that have been around for 1, 2, 3 years, more sometimes, that have taken part in almost every single private league that has gone on within the community, that have drivers that are running top split, that are running world record times in their various cars and classes on leaderboards, that are being denied the chance to even try and participate in this because their team wasn't invited, and they may have not ditched off to go join a big name team, which is a very unfortunate thing. And some of this top talent doesn't even have the top teams, these professional teams, looking at them, which is, I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's just what happens. Not everyone can get picked up by the top teams. But because of that, we are seeing some of the best drivers, some of the household names, getting their opportunities restricted simply because they're not being endorsed by a Ferrari, by a Red Bull. And that is not right. On the flip side, as you get more and more serious into this, you're seeing more and more drivers that are leaving the community teams that they were a part of to go to these big name organizations. And again, I said, personally, if I was given the offer, I would say yes. It makes sense from a driver's perspective. The resources that you have at your disposal when you are a part of those bigger teams, you just can't compare it. It's vastly more immense than if you're a part of those smaller community teams. Those big name professional teams and organizations can pull in sponsorships like that. It's nothing to them. It's easy. It's your average Monday. To these smaller community teams, they may fight tooth and nail for months and months on end just to try and get a small sponsorship deal that may give you 25, 50% off some small equipment, but nothing major. You don't have the coaches, the facilities, the equipment that a large name team would have. So it makes sense why a driver would choose to go to a big team. And honestly, if a driver came to me and said they were caught in a dilemma and they didn't know what to do, I would tell them absolutely the smart choice is to go to that top team. But this is kind of where the paradox kicks in, where the issue kicks in. As we are seeing these big teams pick up more and more and more of these top drivers, we are starting to see these smaller community teams fall further and further and further back down the field. And I've already seen community teams that shut their doors because they thought they weren't making the progress that they needed to make or that they wanted to make. And if you then start taking away the top drivers from these teams and they not only don't see themselves making that progress, but then see themselves regressing because their top drivers are going off to these top teams, you're going to see more and more community teams beginning to shut their doors. And once that happens, guess what? The driver market for these pro teams is going to thin out. Because community teams are, I would dare to say, they are quintessential parts of not only scouting out new talent, but also introducing that new talent to competitive sim racing, and also training that talent to a top level. Personally, I was the leader of a team in the Forza community called Midnight Racing. And almost every single one of our drivers that came in had no more than 2 or so months of experience in the community. A lot of them never viewed racing really competitively at all. And a lot of the drivers we brought in were fresh faces to the community that did not race competitively or race in many, if any, leagues. And now a lot of those drivers have gone on to be a part of community teams that are sitting at the upper midfield, if not the front of the pack. So these community teams are quintessential parts of introducing and finding new talent to competitive racing and training them up to those top levels of competitiveness and of speed and consistency that you want to see when you're looking at good sim racing esports. If you all of a sudden begin to kill off these community teams because all these big pro teams and large organizations come in and take their drivers and knock them down to the bottom, you're going to find that the driver market for these pro teams is really going to get throttled off. And it's going to become such a cutthroat community that it's going to kill the interest for a vast majority of the people that are a part of it. And that is something that I do not want to see. Because just like everyone else, I'm a sim racer. I love to do it. I love to watch it. I love to be a part of it. It is frustrating. It is irritating, but it is absolutely glorious and amazing once you get it right. And when you're out there in the middle of a race, having a battle with someone, when you nail that apex, carry all the speed you can through a corner, hit the fine limit of that hard braking zone, all that hard work and irritation that you took just pays off. And it melts away, and it is one of the greatest feelings ever. So I want to see sim racing succeed. I want to see it become something big. And I definitely want to see the opportunities continuing to grow for not only sim racing itself, but also for the drivers and sim racers that are involved in it. But at the same time, I don't want to see one of the most important parts of sim racing get trampled out when sim racing is still in its infancy. You know, prior to all the big teams coming in, the community teams ran everything. But there were so few eyes on it apart from the sim racers themselves that, I mean, it really was just a thing that we were doing for fun because we enjoyed it. But once it started growing and it got to a point where it actually has become a big thing, all these larger teams are coming in and the community teams are just starting to get snuffed out because of it. And that is one of the saddest things that I honestly believe I have seen in a while. So that's not something that I want to see continuing to happen. I want to see not only the pro teams prosper and do well within the community, but also the community teams continue to flourish, continue to grow, and get better. And I love to see these community teams be able to go toe to toe with the top guys, with these large pro teams, because they have the ability to do it in some cases, but they're being restricted from it. And once they're being restricted from it, the pro teams are then coming in and sweeping away the resources and the drivers that are allowing the community teams to go toe to toe with them. And again, for me, I think that's one of the most unfortunate things that I've seen happening in sim racing in a long time. Well, guys, I know this has been a bit of a long rant now. We're going on about 20 or so minutes for this rant. Like I said, it was completely unscripted. I don't even have talking points up that I've been looking at. It's been straight off the top of my head. This is something that I've had on my mind for quite a while now and have really wanted to just kind of get out in the open, get off my chest. And I really wanted to make a point for the community teams because it doesn't matter what sim or what game you play, the community teams are the ones that drive the very heart of it. And right now, the top leagues and the pro teams are grabbing the heart of that and squeezing until they snuff out the final bit of the pulse that's keeping it alive. Whether they're doing it intentionally or not, I can't say. I'm not on the back end of it, so that is completely up to you guys to decide. Feel free to talk about it, have a discussion. I'd love to see everyone else's thoughts on this. But with that, I've been Nightlock, and I'll see y'all in the next one.
is reflected in my eyes. Another moonlight in a starless midnight. The showers on the people passing by. One is so small and the world's so wide.